My name is Patrick. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I have been in long-term recovery since 2014. I was born and raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I started using drugs and alcohol at a very young age, about 12 or 13 years old, and things got bad for me quickly. I was first arrested due to my addiction. In my freshman year of high school, I went on to juvenile probation, and I was supposed to be on there for 6 weeks as sort of a way to get me to realize what I was doing wasn't okay. I ended up being on juvenile probation until the day I graduated high school. I first went to treatment in 2006, my junior year of high school. Then after my junior year of high school, I was sent to a juvenile reform school where I completed high school. Once I got out, I continued doing all those things that I had been doing previously all those years before, thinking that, this time would be different. I wasn't someone who was suffering from substance use disorder. I was just a kid who got in a little bit of trouble and let the system take hold of him. And I tried to do that successfully for a few years, and it never worked out for me. In 2011, my father was diagnosed with, in 2010, my father was diagnosed with lung cancer. And that's really where my issues with substance use disorder took off. In 2011, my father passed away, and I went down a very slippery slope with prescription painkillers. I used daily for a number of years. I went to treatment again in 2012, again in 2013, and then in May of 2013, I was arrested. I went on to a treatment court program in Lackawanna County where I still didn't believe that I was someone who suffered from substance use disorder. And I continued trying to manipulate the system and was eventually terminated from treatment court and was sent to state prison. Upon my arrival in state prison, I was laying in bed one night when I first got there, and I started thinking to myself, how did I wind up here? I came from a good family, had a good upbringing. How did this happen to me? This isn't what's supposed to happen to me. And I made a decision as drugs and alcohol were rampant through prison and everywhere in there. I made a decision that I was going to try to live a different way of life, and I would give it an honest shot. For the first time in my life, I always tried to manipulate the systems, and I figured I have nothing left to lose at this point. I might as well give this an honest shot. So I did that. I got together with some people in prison who were also doing the right thing, and we started talking a lot, and it was really great for me. And I could see even in that situation, my life and my outlook on life changing. So when I got out, I continued to do this. I moved to Philadelphia, where I found a group of friends that were also living a new way of life, and my life started really, really changing quite a bit. I saw things in myself that I had seen previous to using substances that had gone and faded away for so many years. I was able to be there for my family. When my first niece was born in 2014, my sister had told me that she had heard that I wasn't doing well, and she needed me to try to get better because she needed me to be the godfather to her daughter. And when my niece was born, I was in prison and could not be there for her. So in 2016, when my second niece was born, I was able to be there to be the godfather for her. I had my family back in my life, things that I believed would never come back to me for the things I was doing and the way I was living my life. My family started to trust me again. People around me wanted me to be around. Those people that would never answer my calls were beginning to answer again and see changes transpire in my life. And that gave me almost a snowball effect to say, doing the next right thing metastasized into a completely new life for me that I never believed I was capable of. I believed for a long time that my life would end with either prison or dead. I always, every night, I worried that going to bed, I would pray and I would say, please don't let my mother find me dead of an overdose tomorrow morning. I have so much more to live for. And there was always a part of me that knew I had so much to offer, but I was never able to do the next right thing to offer that to other individuals. So, so through the recovery process, I've been able to help numerous individuals in my life. I started to live a life that I could be proud of. In 2017, I got the job and the career that I always dreamed of, working with the government for a health insurer, and and working a lot on what was happening with the federal government as far as the opioid crisis goes. Um, Being able to tell my story, and later in 2017, my company was hosting a conference on the opioid crisis called the Someone You Know Conference, and I was working a lot with the company on trying to like help get speakers and shape the agenda. And there were only a few individuals that I worked with that knew that I was a person in recovery, because I believe there's a stigma attached to recovery and substance use disorder. And I was afraid to tell my coworkers. I believe that that stigma is very strongly attached in the workplace. So finally, after working with everyone on trying to shape this agenda and what was going to be talked about, I made a decision that I was going to tell my story at this conference. And I got up that day, it was in Philadelphia, in front of 700 people, and a lot of my coworkers that never knew of the substance use disorder that I dealt with for so long, and told my story as a way to break the stigma in a corporate environment that is so many times impenetrable. And I got up and told that story, and the first thing that happened afterwards was the CEO of our company gave me a huge hug, and he said, we need to do more to fight this stigma in the workplace. And that day has opened up so many doors for me. After that, I formed a group at our company called the Someone You Know Group. And this group is aimed at being a resource group for any individual that is dealing with substance use disorder at all, whether that be the person in long-term recovery, the family member of the person in long-term recovery, the family member of the person that is still suffering from substance use disorder, or unfortunately the family member that lost a loved one to substance use disorder, and the allies that go along with that. And it's a place that we could openly talk about this in somewhere where, for so long the thought process was leave your problems at the door. And the main genesis of this for me was not me, because there's so many outlets outside of the work environment for people with substance use disorder to talk about these things. But for the family members, I always think back to my mother and how she would have to go to work every single day wondering where her son was. Is he alive? Is he in jail? What's going on with him? And didn't have a place to turn to talk to anyone about it, because my mother wouldn't want people to think, oh, my son suffers from substance use disorder, that must mean I'm a bad mother, which was never the case. But that is a stigma that's attached to that. And I believed in a company I work for that has over 10,000 employees, there has to be a large number of those people within our walls who are trying to perform their daily tasks, but their mind is elsewhere, and there was nowhere for them to turn. So we started this group. We now have over 200 members. It's been remarkable. We just had someone come in at the end of last year to talk about how do you cope with substance use disorder during the holiday season, just to have resources for individuals to deal with things that they, for so many years, believed they had to stay quiet about. My story through doing this was featured on a podcast, and through this, I was given an opportunity that I dreamed of my entire life. And February of this year, a member of Congress called me and said that for this year's State of the Union address, they wanted to lift up the the stories of people in recovery and long-term recovery. And this member of Congress asked me if I would be her guest to the State of the Union address. So in February, I was able to go to Washington, D.C. and attend the State of the Union as an advocate for breaking the stigma of addiction and for being a person in long-term recovery. This is something that I never believed would be possible for me. Just, 5 years earlier, I was sitting in a prison cell, and I thought that was going to be my life. But through the process of being someone in long-term recovery and walking through all of that, my life has changed exponentially. And these are just some of the things that have happened to me. I've received numerous awards. I've been asked to be on the board of directors for a recovery program in the Philadelphia area. Just last year, I was able to come home and speak to an entire high school in their auditorium about my story and about what happens when substance use disorder takes over your life, and what could happen if you make a decision to start living a new way of life. So I think for me, the whole thought process of people of substance, that's who I am. And that's something I never thought I was able to be. And those are just the lies that we tell ourselves when we're suffering actively from substance use disorder. You make yourself believe that you can never be a person of substance. And I guess my message to everyone would be that I too believed that, and now I know without question and unequivocally that I am a person of substance, that I do have something to offer the community, my workplace, wherever that is, wherever I am, I now know that I have something to offer. And I'm just proud of that. And it's been shaped by my struggles with substance use disorder, but that I will never allow that to define me, right? What I allow to define me is what I have done coming from that. And just proud to be a part of this.